Hello again, it's Hal from Light, and welcome to another video recap of Monday Night Light, our free weekly live online web training seminar that we do each Monday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We're going to do it a little bit different this week in that I'll have a video recap for Photoshop and one for Lightroom because it's going to be really hard to fit that into my allotted roughly 5 to 10 minutes. This one here is going to be Photoshop. You know that we've been talking the last couple weeks about sharpening and image sizing. We've looked at our discussion primarily for the printer, but we're going to change gears a little bit and look at resizing for the web, or if we're going to resize to have something go onto a projector. There are a lot of different ways to do that, but the way we've been using to demonstrate a lot of the critical concepts is just to go to Image, Image Size, and bring up our Image Size dialog box. When I bring this up, notice that right now I have Resample Image unchecked, and that shows me pixel dimensions and document size. The pixel dimensions, we typically refer to that as native resolution. Notice that there are no text boxes here, so we can't change it. We have a specific number of pixels in this document. Document size, that applies to actually output to some type of physical media, where no kidding, size in inches and in the resolution in terms of pixels per inch are important. When we go to the web, document size doesn't matter at all. We need to be concerned with pixel dimensions. This image is relatively large at roughly 4,000 by 2,600 pixels, usually a little big for putting onto most websites or blogs. So for access to change and modify the native resolution or total pixel count within the image, we have to come down to Resample Image, which gives us access to changing our native resolution. We know that in almost every case going to the web, we're going to make the image smaller. With that, I can grab the specific algorithm bicubic sharper, which Adobe tells us, and I tend to agree with them, is better for reduction. So with Resample Image checked and bicubic sharper, I can turn my attention strictly to pixel dimensions. Document size doesn't matter at all. Now, regardless of what you might have heard previously, it does not matter one iota where you set the resolution. Whether you set it at 1, 72, 96, 300, it doesn't matter when we're going to the web. The only thing that matters are the pixel dimensions up top. Now, what we put into this width and height, it just depends. We could talk about that for hours as to how you might want to size your image. A basic rule of thumb is that you're going to size the image such that it will fit onto basic XGA resolution, because almost every single monitor out there, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, is going to be able to display that. Basic XGA resolution is 1024 by 768. So if I have a landscape orientation or horizontal image, all I need to do is type 1024 into the width, and then I'll see my resultant height is 683. Now, although I just said 1024 by 768, because I have constrained proportions checked, I am not going to modify the aspect ratio of the image. In this case, it's 2 by 3. So I get a 1024 by 683, which is easily displayed on any of our XGA capable monitors. This is one option. If we wanted to make this image smaller, such that someone could download it even faster, or we wanted to prevent someone, if they did happen to steal the image from us online, they couldn't do too much with it, we could maybe change that width and go something maybe 640 pixels. Or, gosh, we could even go smaller. We could make it 200 pixels by 133. It just doesn't matter. You'll come up with the exact pixel dimensions that you want or need based on your unique circumstances, and then type them in here. That's all you have to do. So for our example, I'll just say, hey, I want to make this 1024, and it'll give me 683. Now, as a quick note, if you were to use this process here and you were dealing with a portrait orientation or a vertical image, if I just type 1024 into the width, then to maintain my proportions, since they're constrained down here, I would get a height that greatly exceeds 768. So when you are dealing with a portrait or a vertical image, make sure that you type into height. What you want there is 768, and that'll keep everything looking good such that it will fit onto a basic XGA monitor and everything will be there without a scroll bar, technically what they call above the fold in a particular website or browser window or blog post, whatever it may be. Once you have your desired resolution set, click OK. Photoshop will examine the image and it's going to rebuild it. It redraws it with fewer pixels. We can verify that by coming right up here again to the image size, and we see now that our pixel dimensions are strictly 1024 by 683, exactly what we wanted before. Now if you're going to take this image to the web, there are a couple other things that you need to consider. Most cases sending to the web, you're going to do so with a JPEG. So to prep for JPEG from most of our original source files, notice that this image here is in 16 bits. I couldn't save a 16-bit JPEG, so I will need to go Image, Mode, 8 bits per channel, and then I also need to consider the color space, because right now I'm operating the Pro Photo color space, and that greatly exceeds what the web is capable of doing. So the web's color space by default is sRGB. What we'll want to do is come into Edit, Convert to Profile, and then within the profile we can choose sRGB from the entire list of profiles available on our system. Once you have sRGB set, to see if there were any big changes, you can just toggle that preview button on and off. And we might see a few small changes there, but all in all, not too bad. Another check you may want to do is to look at the intent, whether you want to use relative or perceptual. Perceptual tends to give us a little bit better performance when we have highly saturated colors, not exactly what we see here in this image. But I can go back and forth between the two and see if I prefer one or the other. Remember that if you have relative colorimetric as your algorithm or rendering intent, make sure that you have black point compensation checked. We also recommend the use dither check mark because that is going to even things out just a little bit, and I think it gives you a better result. So when you find your specific intent, click OK, and now we have an image that has been resized, changed from 16 to 8 bits, and it's converted to an sRGB profile. To finally take this image and have it really ready for the web, we would just go File, Save As, give it a name, and then JPEG. You do have an option as to whether you would want to embed your ICC profile. Our recommendation here at Light is that you should do that. Even though technically not required for the web, we think you should do it. Once you hit Save, notice that you do have a couple of JPEG save options. The quality is going to go anywhere from 12 all the way down to 0. This quality determines how much compression is there going to be when we create the JPEG. What I like to use as a basic standard for going to the web, I go anywhere from roughly 8 to 10. It gives me reasonable quality and it keeps the image relatively small. Once I have my quality set, hit OK, and then we are saved and ready for the web. Shifting gears, looking at a projector. How do we want to size for projection? Let's bring up our image size dialog box again just to check it out. Well, the image size for a projector, learning a little bit from what we did before, we know the document size just doesn't matter, because that's going to matter for us when we're going to physical media. So once again, all we need to do is look at pixel dimensions. The deciding factor for us will be what projector are we using and what's its resolution. If it is an XGA capable projector, it'll be at 1024 by 768. If it happens to be something a little bit lower, the next one down typically is 640 by 480. Now if you're working on a very high-end projector, something like a Canon SX6 or SX7, it might be considered an SXGA Plus, which gives you 1400 by 1050 pixels. The basic rule of thumb is that you do not want your pixel dimensions of the image to exceed the native resolution of whatever projector you're going to use. And going even a little bit further, you don't want it to exceed it, and you're typically going to make it a little bit smaller, because a lot of projectors tend to have a little bit lower quality on the edges and a little bit of light fall off. So if I were going to a projector capable of 1024 by 768, I might find myself somewhere in the 950 maximum, or maybe all the way up to 1000 pixel maximum dimension, and it's going to do just fine on that specific projector. If we take this further and save this image, we might, well, you probably should consider changing it from 16 to 8 bits, saving it as a very high quality JPEG, and for color space, once again, probably an sRGB or Adobe RGB 1998, but you're going to be safest converting it over to sRGB. The big takeaway from the projector is figure out what projector you're going to be using, and then size your image in terms of pixel dimensions such that it fits on that projector's native resolution. Thanks a lot. Remember to come see the blog on Friday morning, or join us via or follow us on Twitter such that you can get the invitation